Hi guys, and welcome to Escape Wheel Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Tandorio SKX GMT homage. I purchased this watch with earnings from the channel, so thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel. I absolutely love it. Thank you guys again. I can't thank you guys enough. Without you, this channel would not be possible. And if by the end of this review you want to pick one of these up, I'm going to be leaving an affiliate link down below that, again, you can support the channel by using that link. You guys don't pay any extra. I will just get a little bit of commission. The retail price for this watch is $98 US. That's before any taxes, sales, coupons, VAT, etc. Tandorio, they absolutely do participate in the sales. So if you are interested in this and you can be patient, I think you're going to be able to save probably like 20%, 25% off the price on this thing. The watch comes with a black dial or an orange dial. It comes with or without the Tandorio logo there. And then they do have a couple different bezel options as well. So again, click that link down below. That'll take you to the site. You can see what color options they have, see which one you guys like the most. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal, a ceramic bezel insert, screw down crown, screw down case back, 200 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch is powered by the Seiko NH34 automatic GMT. So we all know Tandorio has a pretty solid reputation for putting out high value watches. They're not perfect, and I've reviewed a couple on the channel, and they've been really good. I've been happy with them, but I've never seen a diver from them, and I've never seen a bracelet from them. So I'm just kind of curious to see how this watch plays out when they have to put together a complete watch, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I say we get right into this full review, but before we do a quick wrist check. Wearing the new Seastern S435, as you can see there with the dome crystal. I'm going to have a comparison between the 435 and the 434 very soon on the channel. So stick around, hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss that. All right, so let's talk about the dimensions on this thing. So I got a case diameter of 41.8 millimeters, got a case thickness of 13.5 millimeters, got 22 millimeter lug width. End link to end link is 45.7 millimeters. And with the protruding male end links, we got a total length of 51 millimeters. Then sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with 2 links removed. It weighs 169 grams. So I think the size of this was no surprise to me. It wears pretty true to the inspiration for this watch. It's the same size or very close to it. So it wears just like I thought it would, pretty short lug to lug. It does have those male protruding end links, so it does make it a little bit longer, but I don't think it wears bad at all. Very flat case here, but also very comfortable. So I'm going to go outside right now and throw this on my wrist for you. Here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, for me, it's fine. I can pull off these watches pretty easily. 41 millimeters, 13.5 thick, pretty short lug to lug though. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the way this thing wears. It's very comfortable. It is very heavy. Yeah, it's a big chunky watch, but I think it wears on me pretty well. You can see the lack of anti-reflective coating. It is an issue. Getting some direct sunlight there, you can see it kind of gets washed out a little bit, but for the most part, very legible. That black dial with those white indices, nice big chunky hands and big chunky indices. It's pretty easy to tell the time on this thing. Here we are, just a little bit different lighting, as you can see there. Lots of play off that crystal and off the bezel insert. Even the dial, it's reflective. So it's a very shiny watch, but I think it does look pretty good. Lots of play off of the bracelet as well there. But overall, I am very satisfied with the way this thing looks. I think it looks pretty nice. All right, let's go throw this on some straps and we'll get back to this review. And here it is on a black rubber band. Looks really good, textured, very simple. Obviously, a black diver is going to look great on a black rubber strap. So, yeah, it looks good. Very comfortable. This is what I've been wearing it on mostly. And here we are on a brown leather strap. This is a San Martin strap. But, you know, people do and people don't like leather on divers. I'm in the camp that does. I think that looks really good. Here we are on a single layer rubber strap. This is one layer underneath there, really a thin strap, so it doesn't really lift the watch too much. Really nice pop of orange with that GMT hand there. So I think it looks good. All right, got one last strap. And lastly, here we are on a gray and black nylon strap. There's 2 layers underneath the watch. It still wears pretty decent for what it is. I mean, it's a chunky watch, so this does bring it up a little bit, but still doesn't look that bad. Very comfortable though, and I think that color combo actually looks pretty good. All right, let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. All All right, so let's talk about the case finishing on this thing. And the case finishing is done pretty good. It is a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. As you can see here, you get a vertical brushing on the tops of the lugs. It's a pretty nice brushing, actually. I'm quite impressed with it. It's very fine, very consistent and even. I don't see any cross brushing or anything like that. The sides are fully polished, as you can see here. They aren't just flat sides, they're nicely rounded, so you do have some nice distortion on that. The transitions, they do get a little bit muddy when you get up close to them. Hopefully I can show you guys here, but for the most part, the transitions are done fairly well. I've got no real issues with that. A little bit soft, but not anything out of the ordinary for a watch like this. Working our way to the crown side here, you do have an unsigned crown here, fully polished. Nice big crown, plenty of grip. The bottom of these crown guards here, they do kind of get in the way. Makes it a little bit difficult to get to the crown, but for the most part, I haven't had much of an issue with it. But it's just something I thought I would let you know. If they could kind of sculpt that just a little bit differently, I think it would help a lot. Flipping it over to the case back here, you have a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces on the case back. Real simple case back, simple notches to get a tool in there. Everything is done as you would expect. It's nice and smooth here. It's been a very comfortable watch for me. This bottom edge of the case here is nicely rounded off. I've got zero complaints with the comfort of this thing. It is very comfortable on the wrist. I think the case finishing for the price is perfectly adequate. I've got no complaints with it. All right, so let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So the bezel is a ceramic bezel insert. It is a 24-hour insert, so you can change this for your GMT times. Sadly, it's not a 60-click bezel. It is a 120-click unidirectional bezel. As far as the play goes, there's absolutely no play in this bezel at all. It doesn't bounce. It doesn't wobble. Moving it up and down, it's just very solid. There's no back play to it either. It's a nice bezel. I was pleasantly surprised with this thing. It feels great. It reminds me a lot of the Willard homages from Steel Dive and Addy's Dive. So it's a very kind of slick feeling bezel, but nice and clicky, as you can hear there. But yeah, it is really, really a nice bezel. I've been pleasantly surprised by it. Again, it feels good. The grip is really good. The alignment is spot on. So yeah, there's not a whole lot to complain about on this bezel. You can see here, yep, fully polished on the sides here, but nicely done. Plenty of grip again. It's a very familiar bezel style, and I think they did a good job with them. I'm happy with the bezel on this thing. All right, so let's talk about the crystal real quick on this thing. First things first, we will test it for sapphire. And it is positive for sapphire. It is just a flat sapphire crystal, as you can see there. I mean, just ever so slightly protrudes from the bezel there. I've got no real complaints with the crystal. It's a flat sapphire. There's no anti-reflective coating. You don't really expect it at this price point. It could definitely use some AR coating, especially since the dial is glossy. You kind of get this bounce back effect where I'm not sure I can show you guys on camera or not, but yeah, I definitely don't see it on camera. But you kind of get this effect where you can see the reflections of the indices kind of bouncing off the crystal and then bouncing off the dial and then bouncing off the crystal and bouncing off the dial. It's kind of one of those infinity looking tables. It just kind of keeps on going. So that's really my only complaint with it. If there was some inner anti-reflective coating, that would kind of cut down on that, and I think it would make it look a lot better. But for the price point, I can't really complain too much. So let's talk about the dial on this thing. And the dial is actually done pretty nicely. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a glossy black dial. But very nice, deep, inky black. You have a black chapter ring around the outside with a 24-hour track printed on it. You have applied indices at all the hour markers, kind of have these pill shapes at 6 and 9. 12 o'clock is your big triangle. Everywhere else is circular indices. Simple cutout for the date window there at the 3 o'clock position. Everything is centered nicely. Everything is done very nicely. I was, again, pretty surprised and impressed by the quality of the dial. They did a really good job on it. So yeah, you get that nice kind of sparkle from the applied indices, and yeah, I think it just looks really good. The handset that they used, it's very simple. It's a flat handset, fully polished, but nicely done. I've got no complaints with it. I think the color match of the Lume is actually pretty decent as well. The handset reaches right out to the minute track, as you can see the little needle there on the tip of it. The hour hand there reaches right to where it should be. It's a perfectly sized handset. Same thing with the seconds hand there sweeping along. You do have this counterbalance, which is loomed. The GMT hand, really nice orange tip. Yeah, I've got no real complaints with that. The only thing I would complain about is the GMT text. It's a little too red. If it matched the GMT hand there, I think it would look a little bit better. You do have the Tandorio logo at the 12 o'clock position, which is a love or hate thing. I know some people like it, some people don't like it, some people don't mind it. That's kind of the camp I'm in. I do really like this automatic text down here, that kind of scripted automatic text. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the dial on this thing. The lume on it, it's not great, but it's also not terrible. So I'm going to pop up a lume shot here. So here you can see it against a couple other watches in the collection. You can definitely tell that it's struggling to keep up with these other two. The Tandorio, it does start out pretty nice with a nice bright glow, but you can definitely see the hands start to fade pretty much right away. And then everything just kind of fades along with it. And it's just not great lume. Kind of what I expected from this price point, but I was actually hoping for a little bit better. You know, Steel Dive can do it. Why can't Tandorio do it? So a little bit disappointing with the lume. All right, so let's talk about the movement in this thing. So like I mentioned earlier, the movement is the Seiko NH34 GMT automatic. It hacks, it hand winds 21,600 beats per hour, so 6 ticks of the second hand. It's got a bidirectional winding rotor, so you don't have your rotor spinning around like crazy. Independent GMT hand. This is not a traveler GMT where the hour hand can be adjusted independently. A quick set date as well. I'm overall very satisfied with movement. Here's how this one has been running. Negative 20 seconds a day with a 1.2 millisecond beat error. Not too happy with that. I believe that's still within spec from Seiko, but it just shows that Tandorio, they're spending zero time, zero effort in regulating these movements for you guys. So just something to keep in mind. These are pretty easy to work on. You can regulate them to, you know, whatever you want to, as long as you spend the time to do it. So, but just something to know. I've seen these things come out of the box from Tandorio with, you know, plus 10 seconds and now to negative 20 seconds. So they're kind of all over the place. You're kind of at the will and the mercy of the assemblers just not doing anything to regulate these things. So it is what it is. But the movement itself, they're great. I've had no complaints with them in the past. This one is operated by this, I guess, 3.8 crown. You know, 345-ish crown, unsigned, nice and big. Like I mentioned earlier, these crown guards, when you're unscrewing them, my finger kind of hits this here, so if they could just trim that down a little bit, it would help a lot. But you do get a nice satisfying pop out once it disengages from the threads right there. First position is your hand winding. Second position is your GMT and your date. I'm going to move the hands out of the way here so you can see you pull it out to the third position. It does hack the movement. Let's get into the date and GMT. So you wind it forward here, and this is where you move your GMT hand. It has nice satisfying clicks into the next position. So very satisfied with that. I've got really no complaints at all with that. Moving it backwards here, this is where it changes the date. Again, nicely done. I've got no complaints with that either. Nicely centered in there. It looks good. It's nothing fancy, but yeah, very functional. Again, it does hack, it does hand wind, it does everything you need it to do. 40 hours of power reserve. Yeah, they're great movements. I've had them in plenty of watches now, and I see no issues with it, especially at this price point. You're getting a great movement as long as you get one that's, you know, fairly accurate. This one, it's not a watch I'm going to wear all the time, so it's not a huge deal that it's 20 seconds slow, but definitely I would like these things to be at least on the positive side a little bit more than the negative side. So, but yeah, I think the movements are acceptable for the price. So let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So bracelet is a new one for me from Tandorio. The bracelet is actually okay. It's got a few things that I like, a few things that I don't like, and we'll get to all that here right now. So it is 22 millimeters and it tapers down to 18 millimeters at the clasp. You can see here it is a 5-link bracelet. They are all solid links. There's no hollow links in here, which is nice to see. They are push pins for sizing. I removed 2 links for my 7.5-inch wrist. You can see here, this style bracelet is meant to be flexible and comfortable, and it is. It is actually very comfortable. This bottom edge I don't find to be too sharp. When you get your fingers and when you run your fingers on it like this here and kind of catch these front corners, they do feel a little bit sharp, but when it's on the wrist, you never notice that at all. The end link fitment here, end link fitment is actually pretty decent. You can see this one, it's got male end links here, so they do protrude, but it does, you know, curve down pretty good. I see no real issues with that for the price. You can see it matches the case fairly decent. This side over here, I had a problem after I took this off to do my strap shows. I could not get this one to seat back in there, so that spring bar just doesn't want to pop in place for some reason. I'm not really sure why. it just doesn't want to pop in place. So I'm going to have to replace this spring bar with something probably a little more sturdier, I guess, and hopefully it'll pop into place. That's kind of my big gripe about the bracelet is the spring bars. They're pretty poor, not very nice at all. As far as the finishing goes, the finishing is fine. It's nothing special. It's a little, I'm going to say muddy. You can't really see the strokes of the brushing like you can on the case. So the brushing doesn't match the case very well. And then when you get onto these links here, there's like no definition to the brushing at all. It just almost looks bead blasted. So they could put a little bit more effort into the bracelet finishing. The polishing, it's fine. It's nothing special, but it's not terrible either. You have polishing on the sides of the links here, and working our way to the clasp here. It's an unsigned clasp. It's a fully stamped clasp. There's no solid elements to it. It is very lightweight and kind of cheap feeling and cheap looking. Everything functions as it should. You get nice positive clicks when you're doing it. You do have 3 levels of micro adjust as well. So I have no functionality concerns with it. It's never come undone on me or anything like that. It just feels a little cheap and a little light. The tolerances here thankfully are pretty good, so you don't get the, I mean, sometimes I see these ones where they're just so far off that you can actually push it off center a little bit, and it won't latch. This one, I've got no complaints. It latches every time. So the advantages to these ones is that they are lightweight and they're pretty thin in profile. So it's not a huge clasp or anything like that. But yeah, they could definitely sign this thing. They could put some milled elements into it a little bit to make it feel a little more substantial, especially to balance out the watch. It does feel very top heavy. It's a heavy watch. A lot of that is in the watch head. Thankfully, the bracelet is also pretty heavy, so it kind of balances it out, but I think a heavier or larger clasp would help that out a little bit. So there you go, guys. That is the Tandorio SKX GMT. It's been a great watch. I believe I saw this for like $75 during the 11/11 sales. That was before the 11/11 like sales actually kicked in, so it's probably even cheaper than that. And I think for that price, it's hard to go wrong with this watch. I might skip the bracelet if you can find this on rubber. If you really like this 5-link bracelet, I see no reason to not get it as long as you know about its shortcomings, which are the overall end-to-end and the cheap clasp. You can replace that clasp. You can't really replace those end links too well. So just something to consider. But yeah, I was surprised by the bezel insert. I think the Lume is fine. It's nothing fantastic. I definitely think you're going to get better on the steel dive, but you're also paying quite a bit extra for that steel dive. So depends on how much weight you put into the Lume. I think this one is excellent. I think it's really, really good for the price. I think you guys are going to be pretty happy with it. As long as you don't go in expecting the world, you can't really be disappointed in a watch like that. So I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.